Well, good evening, DisFoodies. It's join us. Obviously, well, all right, when I started the video. So anyway, tonight is tonight is all right. Mike Evans, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
So let's start with maybe just tell everybody what your role is with the company and kind of how you got started.
Sure. So I got started with Disney way back in 2000, actually. I was going to school at USC out in LA, and I was at Disneyland with some friends, and I decided, you know what, I need a part-time job that I actually like. And I was just walked into the casting center behind Disneyland. I'm like, I'll apply for a job, and there's no way I'll get it right now, but I can at least get my name in there, and we're good to go. And keep in mind, 2000's right before California Adventure opened, so they were on a massive hiring spree at the time. So filled my application out, gave it to the person at the desk. Who's like, okay, have a seat. You'll have an interview in a second. I'm like, what? And she's like, oh, yeah, you're good. Don't worry. So sat down, was called back in about 5 minutes, had a group interview. It was me and a couple other people, and did the group interview thing. And they were going to hire me for guest relations on the spot. But guest relations at Disneyland starts in the phone room for the first year. And I didn't really want to sit in the phone room for a while. So I said, well, can I get attractions instead? And like, sure. So they hired me for attractions, and it was all from there. So that was my first go around. Left the company after a couple of years to deal with health issues with the family back at home. And then when we moved down here to Florida, I saw a posting on the job site for a part-time monorail operator. And my dream since I was about 4 years old has been to drive the monorail. That was my thing. I always loved monorails for some reason. I have no idea why, just how it was. So I filled out the application, got an interview for that. And as they say, the rest is history. And here I am.
Very cool. That's awesome. So tell us, though, you started with Disneyland and you did attractions, but didn't you opened a couple of attractions, didn't you?
Yeah, I have the distinction of closing and opening attractions. So
right.
the infamous Disneyland attraction known as Rocket Rods, which replaced the People Mover, I closed that attraction. Then I opened the new Autopia, the new when Chevron took it over and sponsored it, gave it the new look and feel. I opened that one. Then I moved over to California Adventure and opened California Screamin, the big coaster, which is, may it rest in peace, now the Incredicoaster. So that was my baby. I opened that attraction along with Maliboomer, the Carousel, the Sunwheel, Orange Stinger, all that whole section of Paradise Pier is basically my baby.
Very cool.
And then, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, awesome. So what was the deciding factor for? So you moved all the way from the East Coast, clear to the West Coast to work for Disney. Was there anything that did you try to get on at Disney World, or was it just you wanted to? It didn't matter which coast, you just wanted to work for the company.
Well, I was already out there for school anyway. I got my computer science from USC, so I was doing that, and then just it was a part-time job. I drove down every afternoon after classes were over, if I was scheduled. Out there, you get a 4-hour shift, which is kind of weird for here. It's usually 6 hours or more. So for them, it was a 4-hour shift for a part-time person. And then so I just did that and went on. And yeah, coming out here was just a bonus once I moved to Florida. I wanted to work for Disney again. It's a great company. And then saw the posting, saw the monorail, said, you know what, I can do that. And here we are.
Right. Very cool. And for those of you that didn't join at the very beginning, my dog is downstairs with me, so that's him in the background. So there's apparently maybe some of my neighbors are out walking, so he's protecting his house at the moment. So okay, so you're working with a monorail. Do you within that department? Do you guys kind of what's the word, float between pilots or coordinating or any of that stuff, or how does that work?
So it's we float around the different positions, all in the platforms, the stations, and whatnot. We can do everything. Once you're trained as a pilot, you can pilot the monorails. Obviously, you will work platform the same day. You don't just drive all day or just be on the platform all day. If you're a driver, you'll do both. Coordinating and training is a whole other classification. That's a whole separate bucket that you fall into. If you're a coordinator, you have coordinating proficiencies. You'll do that for your whole day. If that's your shift typically. And training, same thing. You'll train the whole day as your shift. That's what you do for that day. Okay. I have been trainer in the past. I'm currently not one. I dropped my status just because of other things going on. But I did training both at Disneyland for attractions and at Disney World for monorail. So it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. Training people is always a unique challenge because no one's quite the same how they learn. No one is the same in how they perceive the information. So it's an interesting thing to see how people will process. And monorail is a lot harder than people think it is. You're actually driving the train. The computer's not always doing it for you. So you're sitting there with the stick, controlling the speeds and this, that, and the other thing. And it's an interesting thing. That monorail is a heavy beast when it's moving and fully loaded. Of course, fully loaded now is not quite going to be fully loaded in the past, right. So it won't be quite the same. But
right. So within that role, do you have a favorite? Is you have a preference? I know you're going to float around and do all of them, but if you had to pick just one.
I like the resorts just simply because it's less crowded, it's less crazy. So typically I'm either the Polynesian or the Grand Floridian if I can choose. And just because it's easier than the Kingdom, especially at nights, is crazy. I work nights for the most part. That's my preference. So
sure. Right. Well, and while we're on the subject, can we just settle the debate once and for all of the people who swear up and down that they've ridden the monorail directly from Magic Kingdom to Epcot? Can we just
no, you haven't.
All of those people, no, you have not. This is the man himself telling you did not do it.
It theoretically would be possible, but to go from the Kingdom directly to Epcot without stopping anywhere, but it doesn't happen that way. We don't take guests over that section of the beam. So right. No, you never did. It never went direct. It never did this, that, the other thing.
Right.
I love it when I hear people tell me that too. It's like, well, it used to go directly from the Magic Kingdom to Epcot. I'm like, no, it never did.
Right.
The beams were built, 11 years apart. So no.
Right. Yeah. That is so funny. So one of the questions we have from way back when we did our list of what would you ask a cast member, we have a list of questions. One of them is, I just lost it. Where'd it go? So from being you kind of have a unique perspective because you did attractions and now you're in transportation. So there's a couple of different facets. But do you ever feel like you don't know enough about Disney? Guests always have the most random questions, right? So if something in particular that they're looking for, do you ever feel like there's stuff that you don't know when it comes to Disney in general?
Well, I'm a Disney freak and always have been. So I probably have a different perspective. And like you said, I've worked in attractions before. I've been a coordinator before in attractions out of Disneyland. I've been a trainer here. So I have a lot of knowledge just from institutional knowledge built up over the years. But yeah, there's always going to be something you don't know. And that's what your coordinators are for. That's what your trainers are for. That's what the cast member, it was called the telecast here at Disney World. At Disneyland, it was called the telecast. It's a little guide we have that has all the information that you need at that moment to help a guest out and figure out what's going on. Or worst case, you can call the operator for the resort and they can help them out with whatever they need. So there's always resources.
Sure, of course. The handy dandy times guides and the park maps and thank God for technology. Like you said, now we've got, most of that information at our fingertips, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And cast alike. So if you were to leave transportation, is there another role that you would like to go to, or a dream role?
Monorail was my dream role for Disney World. If I leave, I would probably go back to attractions just because that's what I'm familiar with, and that's what most people consider the magic, I guess you could say, because it's the most fun for everybody, and that's what they like to do is ride the attraction. So sure. I'd probably do that. I can't think of anything else I'd really want to do other than that. I mean, I'm a computer geek for my real job, for my full-time gig. I probably wouldn't do that for Disney just because it's not located here; it's somewhere else. So.
Sure. So we'll talk about that because that's something that's interesting to me. So when we were down last Christmas, we were at Animal Kingdom one day, and I think we were sitting over kind of in that back section where the outdoor seating is at Satuli in Animal Kingdom, and there was a gentleman who was in khakis and a button down going around picking up trash. We kind of struck up a conversation. He was clearly not custodial.
Right.
But he was one of the cast who, during the peak seasons, they pull over to do shifts elsewhere outside of their normal role, as opposed to hiring, new hires that they have to train and all that kind of stuff. So that was his. I don't know I'm sure there's a word for that.
Cross you.
What does that mean? Cross utility.
Cross utilization.
Utilization.
So, those are mostly the office people that will come in during our busy. Yeah, they all come over.
Right. So he was, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think he was in accounting, or he did something. No, you know what it was? He was some sort of data, where he was the guy behind the scenes who got to look at all your answers when you fill out a Disney survey. He was one of those guys. So we kind of struck up that conversation where, you have that, like you said, cross utilization, where, and I forgot where I was going with this, but it talked about, it's kind of a cool, it was kind of a cool perspective to see somebody not in that role come over and do those things, and just kind of, it's like you don't ever get to see those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So you said with the computer geek stuff, you said it's not even here. So is that something that's strictly on the West Coast, or is there another place in Florida, just not in Central Florida, that would
It's
happen?
mostly on the West Coast. Like all the Disney app development stuff is all in Seattle, as far as I remember correctly. Okay. And then a lot of the IT stuff is all over the place. So I don't believe it's here in Florida. It's my knowledge. It's all like, it's either outsourced or it's not in this location. It's either Glendale or Seattle.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and that would be, like you said, that's a cool job if that's your gig, right? But man, if you're like me, I'm a huge, that I am a huge Disney dork, just like you are.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be as close to the parks as I can be, right? So, I'll take the lesser job, the one that I love, but that I'm okay with, instead of being outside of Central Florida or California and not being near the parks. So that's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that they were.
Yeah, and I'm as close to the parks as you can pretty much get without being in the parks. I can send up my drone straight up and see the Magic Kingdom fireworks with no problem. So
right, and that's why I'm going to just move down and stay with you guys. So we walk to the park. So 10-minute walk. Well,
not 10-minute drive. You can do walk.
That's so funny. All right, so here's a question that this could go either way.
Okay.
Any crazy guest requests? I'm sure being the Monorail platform, you probably get the, hey, can I sit in the front of the car? I'm sure
all the time. Yeah.
But any kind of crazy guest requests that you can recall?
Not Monorail, not so much. The riding the front, the big one, which we can't do anymore, obviously.
Right.
Let's see. You can still take a picture in the pilot seat if you want when we're in the station. That's no problem.
You keep telling me that, but I don't have a picture of me in the front.
You never catch me when I'm working. You know that. I'm trying to think of what the craziest guest request I've ever gotten was. Ironically, I got the same request working the coaster. Can we ride in the front? Can we ride in the front? Which that one, yes, of course you can. You have to wait longer. Right. But yeah, I can't. I don't think I ever had a strange guest request, to be honest with you.
Well, all right. There's the answer.
Yeah, that's more of a guest relations kind of question, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So knowing how big of a Disney fan you are, when you're off the clock, what does your Disney life look like? How much time do you spend in the parks? Albeit zero the last couple months. But typically speaking, under normal circumstances, what does your Disney life look like outside of your employment?
We're in the parks almost every day just for mainly exercise. It's our mall walking. So we, Hank, my husband, and I, we walk around Epcot, just do laps, grab a drink, grab a snack, walk around.
You're glorified mall walkers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have annual passes, obviously. I have my cast member pass as well, and Hank has his annual pass. So we go in and just walk around, whatever. It's good people watching. It's a lot of good scenery. It's good food, always good wine. So yeah, we are wine lovers and wine freaks, so we have to have wine everywhere. Right,
absolutely. Well, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit because I want to talk about food, and I know you and I have several similar favorites.
Yes, we do.
So we'll circle back to the wine here in a minute. But I know one of your favorites is one of my favorites, and I can't wait to get that down there. Before you started working for the company, what was your exposure like? Did you go to the parks as a kid? Did you go to Florida or California a lot?
Yeah. So my aunt still does live in San Diego. So I went to Disneyland as a kid. My first park trip was Disneyland. I think I was either 3 or 4. I was not very old, and I have a picture. I don't know if I have it handy, but it's me and Baloo, and I'm sitting on his lap because you could do that back then, and I was just like knee-high to a grasshopper, tiny, and so that was fun. So Disneyland was my first Disney park that I went to that I can remember, and then we went to Disney World for the first time in 1988. So Grand Floridian had just opened in June. I think we were down there in October. So Grand Floridian had just opened. Mickey's Birthday Land had just opened. So that was a fun temporary land that I got to see and remember. And you took the train. It was the Mickey's Birthday Land Express for that year. So you'd hop on the train and you get to see all these little cardboard cutouts of the characters going to Mickey's birthday party along the way, which was kind of weird and cool at the same time. So, and we did that. That was fun. So did 88. So that was Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Studios had opened. And I believe that was before Tower of Terror was there. So it was the original Studios layout, which if you don't know was the Mickey head. So find an old picture of Hollywood Studios and look at an above ground or a straight down picture, and it's literally Mickey Mouse's face there, clear as day. You can't miss it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
and
one of the largest.
Get that off and on.
Yeah, and one of the largest hidden Mickeys, if I'm not mistaken, on property.
It's pretty close. Yeah,
Everest, and it's one of the largest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a little chopped up now. You can still see where it was, obviously, but it's which is fun. So we did that. So as a family went in 88, and then I did Magic Music Days with high school. So I played the drums in the band. So we came down, we marched to Main Street for the pre-parade one day, and then we did a concert back in what was the Fantasyland. I want to say it was like Fantasyland Fair is what it was called. It was a little stage that was next to Small World back then, I believe is where it was. It was between Small World and the 20,000 Leagues Lagoon. There was a little stage that you popped up out of the ground. We would do our thing, and then we would go back down stage. So that was fun. For Magic Music Days in high school, did that twice. I think we did. Yeah. So I went to a little Christian school in Delaware. So our entire high school was 100 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was, and that's 7 through 12, not 9 through 12. So yeah, it was fun. Virtually the entire school was in the band. So the entire high school went down to Disney, and we stayed at the All-Star Music, took over one of the wings.
Wow,
it was fun.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Because I never went as a kid. My parents went when they were younger, but me and my siblings, we never went. My first Jennifer went when she was, I think, maybe 4 to Disneyland, but neither of us had been to Disney World ever as children. So I didn't have that exposure. So I like to hear about those, what it was like before all of the, the new Fantasyland and before Animal Kingdom was around and all that kind of stuff. So. Oh yeah,
it was a totally different world. Like the All-Star Road where that intersected is Osceola Parkway. Right. If I remember correctly, that actually turned to the right and stopped. So that little section was it went to World Drive and then stopped. That was it. Wow. So it was a little like branch off before everything else was built. Yeah. So it was bizarre.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is so crazy. So with the exposure that you've had, you probably have several, but can you narrow it down? Do you have a favorite or a few favorite things that you like to do, either, in one park or across all the parks?
Since we're local and since we go all the time, we're more about just taking a chill, walking around, not doing anything for the most part.
Right.
Just do that. I mean, we do ride the attractions every now and then. Like I love Soarin'. I love a Flight of Passage. We do this if we can.
Right.
I do want to back up real quick though. The one thing when I was on that 1988 trip, so I would have been 9 years old. So we were in Epcot. I was walking in front of the fountains at Journey into Imagination. And the jumping fountains, I was looking at those, and then I looked up, and the monorail was going by. So I ran over so I could see a better view of the monorail. I'm like, look, and I'm pointing at the monorail, and the monorail pilot honked his horn at me. Which for a 9-year-old kid, that's like, oh my god, that's so huge. Awesome. Yeah, it was huge. So that was like that set in my mind. I think that's like, okay, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to do that someday. Flash forward, I'm being trained how to pilot the monorail, and you start out learning to drive on Epcot because it's the easiest beam to drive. It's not that many speed changes. It's not a lot of stopping and going. You're just going basically full speed for a long time. And then once you get to Epcot, you slow down a little bit. So I'm driving that section of the monorail beam in Epcot. It's called the teardrop because that's how it's shaped. So I'm driving the teardrop and I'm coming up to Journey to Imagination and I'm looking down and this little kid at Journey to Imagination at the fountains is running up to the monorail and pointing, and I honked the horn at him. And I was like, oh my gosh. It has completely come full circle. It was just like, I almost cried then, I almost crying now. It was completely cool.
That's really awesome.
To be the other side of that and see it, like, it's just really cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. So flash forward 30 years from now, my son will be interviewing somebody who works on the monorail, and will tell that story about the monorail driver who was driving by and honked the horn at him.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's an awesome memory to have. That's very cool. How like you said, it's full circle. That's really cool. So you were talking about how being local, just going to the parks and walking around and grab a bite to eat and then go home. And I was just going to make the quip that, you only ride the attractions when your friends from out of town come down to the parks and make you go on the attractions.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, that's how it works. Or anything else in the parks, really. I mean, we won't go. We don't usually set foot inside Magic Kingdom unless there's someone in town from out of town that we're going to hang out with. Because it's like, Magic Kingdom, no.
2 weeks, I'll be at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I know. I will not be. No.
In fact, I think that's where we met the first time. I think we were down. I forget. It's been a few years, but I think we were in the Tiki room. I think we were watching Tiki, and we grabbed the Dole Whip after. I think that was the first time we met.
That was the first time we met. Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Memories. Cool. Well, I think I probably already know the answer to this question, but it was asked in our list of cast questions is, does Disney still feel magical to you?
It does.
So
it's a different type of magic once you know how some of the sauce is made, but it's still magical for sure.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. There was another one that I wanted to ask you specifically. All my stuff is all jumbled. I'm going to blame it on my dog because he was barking and he got me all flustered.
Yeah, Brady, stay off the keyboard.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, let's move on to my favorite Disney topic, food.
Yay.
So what are some, I know you and I share a lot of favorites, but you were talking about wine just a minute ago. So let's talk about some of your favorites. I know you like Wine Bar George.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're there more than we should be.
Right. So what are some of your other, like when you and Hank just go out to dinner on a whim, where do you guys go?
On a whim, well, here lately it's all been Uber Eats because we're not leaving the house.
Sure,
but for the parks, we like Tudo Gusto, the wine cellar, a lot, simply because not many people know about it, and it's usually easy just to get a walk in. It's in the back of the Italy Pavilion, right in front of Tudo Italia on the left-hand side, and it's tucked away. There's usually a seat there. They have great charcuterie. They have a lot of wine available, and you just sit down by the fireplace and have a glass of wine, have some cheese and some crackers, and chill out. And it's usually one you can walk into easily. Where else do we go? We like in Animal Kingdom, we like Nomad Lounge right next to Tiffin's. For the same reason, you can usually walk in and get a seat at the bar, no problem. And you can get all the accompaniments from the Tiffin's menu at the bar, even though they're not on the bar menu, which is, if you didn't know that, it's great. So we would usually get the gobi Manchurian, which is the cauliflower with the special sauce.
Yeah,
and that's actually delicious. I'm not a veggie person by any stretch of the imagination. I hate vegetables in every single form, but I like that. So that's how good it is.
It really is good. You're right.
Yeah. So there's that one. And then Disney Springs, we obviously live at Wine Bar George more than we should. We know George by name. He knows us when we walk in. It's all that thing, which means we spend way too much money there, but it's really good wine.
I mean, where else can you go and get a 3-ounce pour of Chateau Margaux? I mean,
well, let's try a 1-ounce pour of Chateau Margaux, which we just had some landmark birthdays, so we did that a couple weeks ago. Actually, we did the Chateau Margaux tasting there. So it's called the King's Experience, I believe is what it's called. Okay. So it's like Chateau Margaux. It's 1 ounce of Chateau Margaux, 1 ounce of 3 other like really high end wines. That was the one that like drew my attention. I was like, Chateau Margaux, we have to do this. Yeah. So we split one tasting between the two of us. So it was pretty good. Wow. I must say. Yeah.
And then even though it's a wine bar, I know you tagged me in a post the other day. They have a new bourbon, a new whiskey.
A new whiskey cocktail.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, he's trying to get a whole bottle of it, like a full bottle, on continuously, so you can keep it on stack. So yeah,
Yeah.
it looked good.
As long as they have some on the 6th, I think is when we're going to be at Disney Springs. As long as
I'll email Nick to put some aside for you.
Right. Yeah, just save me a taste. I just want to taste it.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah. So, what about? I'm trying to think of. You didn't mention California Grill, man. You broke my heart.
Well, that's not something you just like randomly show up at. I mean, although I've done it before. Before I lived here, I was by myself because I like to come down all the time. Hank at that point wasn't the biggest Disney freak as I am. He is now because I've converted him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was just being by myself, and I walked up to the hostess stand. I'm like, hey, I don't have a reservation. It's just me. If you guys could like throw me at the sushi counter or something or wherever, I'm like, I'm happy that she's like, oh yeah, hold on. Okay, here you go, going up. I'm like, oh, thank you. So yeah, they sat me right next to the pass, and I was talking to the basically the chef finishing the dishes all night long, which is awesome.
Right.
So I was sitting there watching everything come out, and he was explaining to me what it was and what was going on and how the kitchen was working, and I'm like, this is great. Yeah, like, you can't do it any better. And which is we had a similar experience when we were at Disneyland. We went to Napa Rose. And they have a chef's counter there where you're you're sitting at the counter looking into the kitchen, and we got seated next to the pass there. That was a fun experience if you've never done that. You've never been to Disneyland still, have you?
No, we were supposed to be out there last week.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you go, do the chef's counter and Napa Rose.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was on our list. Yeah.
Yeah, so, it's great. Great food and great experience.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to dining experiences. I mean, the food needs to be good, right? I mean, that's a given.
Absolutely.
But I'm more about the experience myself. Like, anytime there's a chef's counter option, or like a chef's table, or anything like that, if I can get the reservation, that's what I'm going to do, because I want
absolutely.
I want to know, what's going into the dish, how they do it. I'm all about the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Yeah. Which you've done one that I haven't done, I think.
Which one?
You've done the chef's table.
Oh, at V&A's?
At V&A, yes.
Yes. So
which we've never done still.
Right. We've been fortunate enough to have done that twice. And it is a fantastic experience. The first time we did it was for one of our anniversaries, and we actually did the Keys of the Kingdom tour first that day. And then went home, got cleaned up. Well, I say went home. We went back to the room, got cleaned up, and it feels like home. So, and then went to the chef's table dinner at V&A's. So we literally spent the entire day backstage. It was a very, very cool day. Mm-hmm. All kind of backstage experiences that day. So it was a lot of fun. So as soon as they reopen and you can get on the list, y'all need to go do. And hey, look, I'm not opposed to. Coming with you.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah, we would love to do that.
Let's coordinate that. I'll do it again. I mean, it's a great meal to begin with, but it's an even better experience. Mm-hmm. You're in the kitchen. You're with Chef Amy. You're with the entire staff, from the sous chefs to the pastry chefs, and it's just an incredible experience. So you definitely need to do that for sure.
Yeah, we've done the Queen Victoria room before, right. So that's similar in menu style, but the experience I'm sure is not the same at all. Right. And then have you been to Documite yet?
We have not.
Okay, so you're stuck right now, unfortunately, but once it reopens, that is also an amazing experience.
Yeah, the water room is on my list for sure. And that's another one where I'm going to have to find 5 of my closest friends to go with.
We volunteer. We volunteer as tribute for that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so we need 3 more. I'll comment right now.
Right.
I feel like that would be an easy one to get 3 more volunteers. I think that would be an easy get. So it was on our list for. Let's see, they opened like in July or something, right? Last year.
Believe so.
I think it was July, and then we were down over Labor Day, but we could have gone. I could have gone by myself, but I just didn't. We just there's just not a lot. That's a specific menu for a specific type of palate.
Absolutely.
And so I just have to either go by myself or wait and do the chef's table with you and Hank and whoever else joins us. So.
Yeah. So let's see. My first July 5th, 2019. Yeah.
Right.
Is when it opened, because that's my first picture there.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So now I know you guys like to travel a lot.
We do.
under normal circumstances. I know you do more than just Disney. So what are some of your other vacation spots? Everybody always says, okay, well, you're a cast member. You live and play and work where everyone vacations. So where do you vacation?
We cruise a lot, actually. So we've done a couple Disney cruises. We did one Disney cruise. We did the inaugural North Sea cruise, which I believe was the first Frozen cruise as well. So that left Copenhagen, did a couple stops in Norway, one in Sweden, up to Iceland. We did an overnight in Reykjavik, went up to Akureyri, went down to Scotland, then ended up in Dover. So that was our first Disney cruise. We've done several Princess cruises. We like Princess a lot. So we've done the Caribbean from them, Eastern and Western Caribbean. We did a Mediterranean cruise with them. And then if, knock on wood, we have a long cruise booked with them still in January. We're hoping upon hope that we'll get to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Not looking that promising right now, but we'll see what happens. We have until September to make the final decision on that one. So we're hoping that that goes through, because that's a world cruise. We're excited about that. So
yeah. We I liked crew. I've only been on two. Well, I've been on two cruises, and one of them was our honeymoon. That's been, gosh, going on 13 years ago. So we need to get back on a boat. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, and you talk about this if you want to, or we can move on. But you guys recently did Antarctica, or did you do the Arctic Circle? I can't remember.
We did Antarctica, yeah.
Okay, so talk about, because I followed your pictures religiously. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. Talk about that a little bit, because that was a really cool trip.
Yeah. So spoiler: Disney's not my main job. I'm a computer geek. That's how this is happening. Disney's not secretly paying me lots and lots of money under the table. Although if you're listening, Mickey, I'll happily take it. So not a problem. Yeah. Right. So we flew from Orlando to Dallas down to Santiago, Chile, and we were in Santiago for a couple days to adjust and get used to the time zone. We did a wine trip down there to the Chilean wine regions and had tastings and things. That was fun. And then you get on a charter flight from Santiago, Chile down to Ushuaia, Argentina, which is the very, very southern tip of the continent. And then we got on the cruise ship there. And then you go across the Drake Passage, which, for those who aren't familiar, is some of the roughest seas you can encounter because of the conjunction of the junction of all the oceans at that point between Antarctica and South America. So it all funnels through, and it's very, very rough seas. Typically, we were told it wasn't that bad at all for us, which was good. I had my first bout with motion sickness ever on that cruise. That was that part wasn't the funnest. I don't usually get motion sick. I've never have before, and that was the first time. We had gotten the Dramamine patches. We hadn't put them on yet, and I put it on not quick enough, and then I had after breakfast problems, but that was okay. So once we got the patches on, it was fine from then on. So
right.
But yeah, the wildlife in Antarctica is insane. So we saw all kinds of penguins, which is what you expect to see. We saw seals, we saw leopard seals, whale seals, orca whales. We didn't see a blue whale. We saw a minke whale. We saw all kinds of birds. And then one thing which we saw, which the expedition team on the boat had never seen before, and they were all like jumping over themselves to get pictures as well, is we actually caught an orca family teaching their young how to hunt.
Oh, so wow.
There was a seal that was not having a good day, sadly, but the orcas will come up to the seal and they'll start circling it, the whole family, and they basically eventually start jumping on top of it to submerge it so it will get disoriented before they move in for the kill. So they were circling it for a good 15-20 minutes, just toying with this poor seal, and he was not having a good day. And then at one point the orca just jumped, completely breached out of the water into the sky, and I have the picture I took, my best picture from the cruise was orca full breach getting ready to come down on the seal who was not having a good day.
Oh my God.
I blew it up to poster size and I have it on my wall. It's great.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
But just Antarctica is such a beautiful, untouched continent still, that it's just pure white. And for the most part, I mean, the part we were at, it was the northern tip, obviously, because if you can't take a ship any farther down without, breaking through the ice all the way down. So we got up there. It was some rock and some, still a lot of snow in the glaciers. It's just so quiet, so peaceful. We had great weather the entire time we were down there. It only snowed for like maybe 5 minutes of one day. Otherwise, it was for the most part completely clear.
Yeah,
which is also unheard of. It's typically very cloudy down there.
Wow.
And it was just gorgeous. I mean, you just walk around And the ship we were on was a very small ship. There were only, I think, 200 people total. So we were three groups of like 34, 40 people. So you're not many people on the continent at any given time.
Wow.
It was an amazing
That's
experience.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's insane. Well, whenever I found out that you guys were going, like, okay, they better be posting, they better be showing pictures.
Oh yeah, we had internet.
Yeah, right. So I followed along on your journey pretty religiously. That was one of the better vicarious vacations that I've ever been on. So thanks for going.
Oh yeah, that was a once in a lifetime trip. I'm glad that we had the chance to do it, and that was right as everything was starting to heat up. So that the ship actually had a pretty large Chinese contingent on it, and it was only a third of what it was supposed to be because a third of them were from Wuhan province, and they weren't allowed to come. Yeah, so they did all the temperature checks and everything before anybody else was doing it on the cruise ship. There was a temperature scan for everybody to get on the boat and see, and they interviewed everybody. But we had no problems the entire time. We were down. I think it was an 11-day cruise we were on. So yeah, there was nothing at all symptom wise, which was good. Obviously, knock on desk. So
yeah, for sure. So obviously, it's not Disney's not your full-time job. Obviously, you have another means of employment. But what for the last going on 4 months, you haven't been able to do anything with Disney. So what have you been doing with that time off? What have you guys been up to?
Not a lot of leaving the house, honestly. We're both homebodies by default anyway. So for us, it hasn't done, and we're both computer geeks, so we can work from wherever. So for us, it hasn't changed a lot of anything. We've been out to Disney Springs a couple times since it reopened. We put a kibosh on that since the numbers in Florida are going the wrong direction right now. So we're staying home again. But driving through property when it was shut down was the most surreal experience ever. Just driving the back roads through by the Grand Floridian and seeing no one there, all the parking lots empty, no monorails, no watercraft, no ferry boats, no noises.
Right.
Like you don't think when you drive through Disney property that you're going to hear the steam train or the ferry boat whistle or the monorail horn or you just hear all this background noise that you filter out typically because you've heard it so long. At least I do. I hear it every day. But and then when you go through those areas and you don't hear that stuff, it's jarring.
Right.
Just how
silence is deafening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And just no traffic on the roads whatsoever, because we live behind the Magic Kingdom, so we have to go through there to get to everything else anyway for the most part. And it's just very bizarre to see all that. And we drove around a couple times just to put mileage on the car and get the batteries charged up, things like that. We would drive through property just to look around and see what was going on. And yeah, it was very surreal. It's good to see things start up again in one hand. We'll see what happens in terms of everything else. Yeah, it's very nerve-wracking. I know friends that are going back to work. Monorails went back today, actually. The first wave did. And some of them they have health concerns with family members at home, but they need to work because they need the money. So it's a balancing act, and it's not one that I want to see happen to them, especially when things going on. I mean, Disney's doing all they can to make us safe. We have all the masks and the face shields and plexiglass and everything like that. But it's just it's a challenging situation for anybody.
Well, and I know it's not, and not to get in, too deep or anything like that on this show, but I know it's got to be a balancing act with guys like that. Like you said, when you're faced with either come back to work or you don't have a job, it's like, what do? You have to provide for your family. You've got to. So, but I am glad to see, and I didn't expect anything less, but I am glad to see all of the precautions that have been put into place, all of the safety measures that are being taken. So, I mean, if anybody's going to do it right, it's going to be Disney, right? I mean, they're tops and all that stuff, So, but I do understand and can empathize with the uncertainty aspect of it for a frontline cast who they don't have a choice. I mean, they got to go back, Yeah. So.
And we're still in the voluntary phase for cast, at least for my department. So when they went through the full timers, if they didn't want to go back right now because they have health concerns with people they're taking care of or themselves, they can say no, I'm not going back yet, and they're still furloughed.
So they can.
That doesn't impact their unemployment. They're still getting their unemployment. They're still getting the benefits until they get through everybody and they get the other. Once the next callback starts, then it's the mandatory.
I got you. I'm with you.
So
Well, that's nice that there's still a buffer zone of some sort for those who do have concerns.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have the option, that's huge. That's a good thing. So, well, I'm out of questions. I have more questions that wouldn't really apply to you. A lot of guest relations kind of stuff. But so, is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to talk about? And then before you answer, I'll remind everybody that wasn't watching earlier. If you have questions, go on and drop them now in the comment section because there is a bit of a time delay. So that way we won't sit here and just stare at each other in silence for 20 seconds. But is there anything that? Yeah, exactly. And the Jeopardy music in the background.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Okay, but that's all we can do. Otherwise, I have to cut a check.
But yeah, exactly.
Don't sing the whole jingle.
Sorry.
So anyway, but is there anything we didn't touch on that you want to talk about? I mean, I'll talk about Disney all night long. I think you know that.
Yeah. I not necessarily. I mean, I guess I can go a little bit just how the monorails work if people don't know. I mean, so so we have two modes of operating the monorails now. We have the automatic mode, which is push the button, which everybody's familiar with, and we have the manual mode where we actually drive the trains around the beamway. The pilot gets to choose for the most part which mode they want to drive in. So if I want to do automatic, I can. If I'm feeling like I want to actually drive that night, I can do that as well. And so it's literally automatic mode, push the button, monorail goes, and once it gets to the station, the doors open. Manual mode, you're driving the train. The system will tell you how fast you can go, how far you can go, what the speed limit is, how fast you should be going, that kind of thing. So you basically make the control stick, the MCU is what it's called, the master control unit. You make that match what the system thinks you should be doing. And as long as you don't go over the speed, you're good. You have a 1 mile an hour buffer. So if the speed limit is 24 and you go 25, you're good. But as soon as you hit 26, that train's stopping. And it'll beep at you to let you know, hey, you're going over. So if you're ever in the very first car of the train, you start hearing beep, 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 means the driver's pushing it right to the limit.
So you don't get the same 10 mile an hour buffer like on the highway.
Oh no, it's 2. You have a 1 mile grace, and after that, it's stopping. But you can get a little bit over if you're coasting and braking and know how to game the system. But we don't do that for the most part. But it's fun. I mean, driving the trains is a very fun experience. It's not like anything else. And people say, well, you can't do anything. You're on a beam. I'm like, well, yeah, but you're still controlling the speed. And this is a multi-1,000-pound moving object. You're basically driving a Mack truck on a beam, and you have to keep it within a 1 mile an hour buffer and still get there on time and not slow down and that kind of thing. So it's a fun math problem that's continuously going on, especially because the trains, as you drive them, you only have certain speed settings. So the first one is, other than brake, it's 15 miles an hour. But the speed limit in stations is 12 miles an hour. So you're going like propulsion not to keep it under the 15 because you can't go. Yeah, it's a fun little like toying with it to get it to work right. So yeah, it's a big video game. I get to play the biggest toys in the world, which is kind of cool.
Right. Well, and the other thing is it's okay. So obviously, yes, there are watercraft, and now yes, we have Skyliner, but the monorail is the icon transportation from way back from Disneyland. So I mean, it's
absolutely
it's the transportation. In my opinion, that when people think about Disney World and transportation, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I think probably most people, is the monorail. I mean, it's the icon transportation. So
absolutely,
that's a really cool gig to have, I think.
Yeah, I'm very spoiled to be able to do what I do, and I appreciate it every day that I can do that, and it's just fun.
Right.
That's all I can say. I play with the biggest toy train every day that I can, and it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, that's very cool. I guess maybe we've either answered all the questions that people have, or people are just, I don't know, maybe they don't have questions because no one is commenting any questions.
I'm that boring. Yeah.
So I do want to talk about cast member pantry. Yes. And if you want to talk about that, I'll throw it to you and we'll talk about that.
Sure.
Kind of what they do, who they are, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so Cast Member Pantry is a organization here in Florida that is basically a food bank run by cast members for cast members. Since, for those of you who don't know, Florida's unemployment is one of the worst in the country. It's not very much money if you can get it. And we have people that applied back in March that still haven't received anything at all. Through no fault of their own, the system is just stacked against them, where it either thinks they didn't work for Disney and they did, or thinks they didn't work enough hours when they did. It's a mess. So Cast Member Pantry is a way where cast members can go and get food that they need for free on their part to keep them going through the system that doesn't work for them here in Florida. So because if they make any money at all, for the most part, they're not eligible for food stamps, but it's still not enough to live on, and the unemployment is sketchy at best down here. So right. Cast Member Pantry helps the cast get what they need now. It's a local organization. They're here in Florida, right here in Orlando. So something that's a much needed service that helps the cast that need it now. And even though recalls are happening, it is still a needed service because not everyone's going back. In my department, they've not called everyone by a long stretch. And I know a lot of other departments are the same thing. So people are still out there. They're still trying to get needed funds and resources. So this is a great way to help out.
Sure, absolutely. And the link is below, facebook.com/cast member pantry. That's their Facebook page that you guys can go to and find out more information. If you're watching us on YouTube and you look in the description below the video, their Amazon wish list link is there. You can go and get stuff from that wish list that will go to Cast Member Pantry, and their Venmo is also there. If you'd like to make a cash contribution, you can do that as well. But I think it's a needed service. Like you said, I mean, you've got however many thousands of people. I mean, close to 80 just with Disney alone. Mm-hmm. Not to mention Universal, SeaWorld, Lego, everybody else. So just Disney alone, there's 80 that were immediately added to the unemployment rolls. And I know the system was just bottleneck doesn't begin to describe what the cluster that it really was.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a needed service, and I think that if any of you have the means to donate food items, monetary donations, I think it's a worthy cause. But you were going to say something else. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So Disney worked with the state to submit applications for everybody, for all the cast members, which on its face sounds great, and it's a great idea. The problem is they submitted incomplete data or no data for a lot of people. So a cast member submitted their own application. Disney came along, submitted an application on behalf of that person. The two conflicted and caused more problems than what it was worth. So that there's, like I said, still a lot of people out there that have received absolutely nothing over the course of this shutdown, other than maybe the $1,200 payment from the federal government.
Right.
So,
which, spade a spade, that doesn't do much for a 4 month.
No, not at all. So yeah, if you, like, as Sam said, if you have the means, if you have the ability, please go to either the Facebook site or their Venmo, preferably, because they can get what they need with that cash. Yeah. And it goes a long way to help people out. I know they've had a couple in-person events here in the last couple of weeks, and they've literally given away everything they had because the need is that great.
Wow.
So yeah, anything you can do would be much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we did have a couple of comments while we were talking about Cast Member Pantry. Laura Cushing, I don't know if you know Laura from the group from DisFoodies, but they one of her little son, his name is Jordan, and she said that it's Jordan's favorite ride.
Yay!
Awesome. He loves the monorail, so that's awesome. That's awesome. So hopefully they'll get to go ride it here before too long. But
absolutely
cool. Well, Mike, I appreciate your time, man, and hanging out with us tonight and talking about Disney. And thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, guys, go see Mike on the Monorail platforms, but stay
eventually.
6 feet away from him. Eventually, but stay 6 feet away from him and wear your mask.
Yeah, please.
Yes, please. So that we can continue to see Disney open and Mike can get back to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're estimating you won't see Mike until at the earliest November, is what we've been told. So we'll see how that works.
Well, I better see Mike, and preferably Mike and Hank in a couple of weeks. And it doesn't have to be at Disney.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. So cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll see you. We'll see you in a couple weeks. If not,
Awesome. Yep.
Cool, man.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us. And just to reiterate, check out, you can go to facebook.com/cast-member-pantry. And again, those links are in the description of the video for the Facebook group, their Amazon wish list, as well as their Venmo. So you can do any of the above. And like Mike said, preferably, if you can spare some cash, send them a Venmo so they can get what they need more immediately. A couple housekeeping notes. Tomorrow morning, if you have had reservations canceled from the closure of Disney as of May 28th, you get ADRs canceled, tomorrow is your day. You can go online. The verbiage in the email that I received was somewhat confusing, but you may be able to do it online and on the app at 6 a.m. If not, call at 7. You can at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and you can start making your dining reservations for restaurants. Obviously, you're going to have park reservations if you want to make park restaurant dining reservations. So make sure all of those are linked, make sure your tickets are linked, and good luck to you. I'll be fighting the system with you in the morning to get our reservations as well. So anyway, we hope you had a good night, and we're looking forward to our next cast member show. So keep an eye on the group for information with that on that. And with that, stay hungry. We'll see you next time.